Beacn Mix Create. Should you buy it? That's all you're looking for, is whether or not you should buy this. The answer is, if you're running a dual PC setup and you want submixes and submixes is important to you, then 100% I recommend you buy the Beacn Mix Create. Now, admittedly, this video will be a little bit longer than usual, but if you want to find out a little bit more about the Beacn Mix Create and whether or not it's the right audio tool for you, then let's jump right in. So, the Beacn Mix Create, after 3 to 4 months, is it worth it? Well, the answer to that is kinda. Let me explain. So I came from the Go XLR Mini and moved to the Beacn Mix Create. In addition to these two, I also had the Elgato Wave 3. If you're moving to the Beacn Mix Create from another type of audio mix, there's a few things you should take into consideration. Now, without going into way too much detail trying to explain to you my setup, let me just say this. If you have a Go XLR or a Go XLR Mini, you have multiple connections. Multiple connections meaning one that'll allow you to connect your microphone if you have an XLR mic, or a microphone if you have a USB mic, or headphones. When you move over to something like the Beacn Mix Create, you no longer have those connections. In addition to that, the Go XLR has an interface that allows you to adjust and change things like EQ and sound audio. When you move over to the Beacn Mix Create, you no longer have those. That aside, let me say this. The Beacn Mix Create absolutely was necessary for the job that I wanted to accomplish. I have a 2 PC setup. The issue that I have is I wanted to be able to separate what I hear versus my audience. What that means is submixes. When you get into a territory of submixes, that's where the problems occur. The Go XLR is an amazing tool. I would recommend that 100% if you don't care about submixes. If you care about submixes, then you have 2 options. Those 2 options are the Elgato Wave 1 and 3 or the Beacn Mix Create. If you run a dual PC setup, the Elgato Wave 1 and 3, at least as far as I remember, does not allow audio transferred over to the other PC. Hey, Future Aztec here. I'm sitting here editing this video and I just realized that I didn't explain why you can't use the Elgato Wave 1 and 3 over to your second PC, seeing as both devices don't have additional connections. The reason is the Elgato Wave 1 and 3 software is designed with 2 outputs, one being your headphones, the other being a stream mix. In order to send the audio over to your second PC, you actually need a line out dedicated output, and that line out would be the actual mix that you want sent to your second PC. The problem here is there was never a way that I could find to tell your stream mix to also be your line out. Because of that issue, you're unable to send the audio via your line out. The Beacn Mix Create positive is that it brings submixes to a dual PC setup. Now, I do want to clarify, if you're in the market for everything, meaning a new microphone and a new audio interface, then at that point, you might look at the Beacn Mix Create and the Beacn Mic. But if you have a microphone currently that you're happy with, for example, I have the Rode Pod Mic. At that point, buying a $200 Beacn Mix Create and a $279 microphone become unnecessary. If you're moving over from one of the other 2 audio interfaces, meaning the Go XLR or the Elgato Wave or any other different type of audio interface, there's a few things that you should know. 1, the Beacn Mix Create does not have any additional connections to it. That would mean that your headphones and your XLR mic or your USB mic would have to be plugged into something different. 2, the software itself is designed only to work with its own microphone. So you would lose that mixer capability of an XLR microphone if you don't have an independent mixer. Those 2 options alone may have you considering whether or not this is the right choice for you. Because if you want to move over to the Beacn Mix Create from one of the other 2, you're gonna have to buy additional items in order to make your setup work. Since I got rid of the Go XLR, what I now needed to do was replace that mixer with something that could control my microphone. My options were to either grab the Beacn Mix Create's microphone at $279 or to find me a decent and good sufficient mixer that would work with my microphone. I chose the latter of the two. I picked myself up a Pro FX mixer, and I use that currently with my Rode Pop mic. But even in doing so, it meant that something as simple as these bad boys now had to plug into something different. So while picking up something as simple as a mixer might be okay for you, you also have to think about other things like cable connections, because now you may need additional connections in order to get your XLR over to your mixer or your headphones over to your computer. So I'm gonna go ahead and answer your question in 3 different ways. 1, should you get the Beacn Mix Create? If you're a person who loves submixes and you want to be able to submix and you have a dual PC setup, yes, absolutely, get the Beacn Mix Create. It is the only tool that allows you to do all of that. If you are someone who does not care about submixes and you just want your audio to be transferred over to your dual PC, get yourself a Go XLR Mini. That's going to be better for you. Now, if you're someone running a single PC setup, honestly, I would probably recommend that you go with something similar like the Elgato Wave 1 or 3. That microphone itself will provide to you a microphone, and the software included will pack enough of a punch to handle your needs. One positive about the Beacn Mix Create is the ease of use. The setup itself is extremely easy. Another positive, being able to hear what your audience hears. Because of the little button on your Beacn Mix Create, you're able to switch back and forth between your audience mix and your mix. When you switch over to your audience mix, you have the ability to listen and hear exactly how they would hear the sounds that you're playing. This feature in itself to be so dynamic and allow you to do it on the fly in midstream, you can't switch in any other software that I've found that seamless while also still gaming and streaming. Another benefit is the footprint. The footprint compared to something like the Go XLR or the Go XLR Mini is amazing. You get so much space back for such a powerful device. Now, with that being said, keep in mind that you don't have an audio mixer. So if you're gonna have to pick up an audio mixer, take into consideration the footprint that the audio mixer and the Beacn Mix Create would take. 4 would be the software. The software itself is great. It's actually well designed. It's similar to the Go XLR with a little bit of upgraded tweaks. 1, without going into too much detail, being able to duplicate your chat mic to an output gives you a lot of different options that you can use when streaming or audio recording. 2, being able to set your mute to a chat only means that you can mute between your Discord chat and your stream chat. So you have all of those tools right here in front of you with a quick push. Now, all of the good things aside, there are some negatives that we probably should discuss. Number 1, and probably the biggest one, is it's still very buggy. There are multiple times when I'm in the middle of doing something and the system itself will just stop working. So I will lose audio across multiple devices, or the system itself will reboot. I'm not sure if it's just something going on within my computer that's causing it to freeze, or whether or not the software itself is doing some kind of micro patch update. I don't know. Whatever it is, it happens every now and then. It doesn't happen consistently, but it happens enough that I notice it. Now, some bugs are expected due to the fact that this is still new, but from a consumer perspective, the bugs can be quite annoying to deal with. One of my favorite bugs about the Beacn Mix Create is when you shut down your system, it will constantly tell you that you needed to save your profile, or a profile was unsaved before you can close. This would prevent your system from doing a shutdown unless you go and click shutdown anyway, or go and click save profile. And the bug itself thinks something has changed, so it constantly asks you to update and save your profile before shutdown, unless you check the box that says remember this. But the problem with checking the box saying remember this is when you actually do make adjustments to your Beacn Mix Create. Let's say you're midstream and you make some tweaks to the audio, your stream says it sounds great, but you forget to save. But guess what? When you shut down your PC, it's not going to ask you to save now because you already told it to remember what you did and go ahead and shut down. Another issue that I have with it, this is going to be more specific to those of you who are running a dual PC setup, which hopefully is all of you, because in my opinion, this is only viable at this price point for someone looking to get submixes on a dual PC setup. But that issue is when the unexpected happens. For example, if you're playing on your gaming PC and suddenly your gaming PC crashes, for whatever reason that may be, or you decide you want to reboot your PC just to give it a quick refresh, you lose the audio to your stream. I know what you're thinking, that's normal. Yes and no. The Go XLR and the Go XLR Mini and other high-end mixers don't operate this way. Because they take your microphone in and they're powered independently with a line in and a line out, it allows itself to continue to run even when your PC needs to reboot. What this means is that your microphone will continue to work on your streaming PC while your machine reboots or refreshes. Now, while this isn't a major issue, and I get that it's very unique to a situation, it is something that I wish could be changed. Now, with all of that information, I have to say, I do like and enjoy my Beacn Mix Create. I do think it took a little bit of time to get used to coming over from the Go XLR Mini, but at a $200 price point, the Beacn Mix Create does solve a problem. The problem that it solves, it's up to you. Well, and that's it for me, guys. I know this video was a little bit longer than usual, but I really wanted to take time and explain the different options that you have, and then also explain a little bit about my setup. If you guys are interested in my full setup, how I got all my audio to work, and maybe even a setup tour, then leave a comment on the page, and if enough of you are interested, then I'll get that video out to you guys as well. As always, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification on the side so you can stay up to date as I release new videos. I also stream live to this channel, so if you have additional questions and I don't see your comments for any reason and you want to pop over to my live stream, feel free to do that and we can continue the discussion. That's it for me, and until my next video, deuces.